Chosen one. This transfer will shock your family. Not because you announced it, not because you demanded attention, but because heaven has decided that this is the moment where secrecy ends and evidence begins. What you are stepping into right now is not a coincidence, not luck, and not the result of timing alone. This is divine funding, intentional, supernatural, sacred, and strategic. This moment carries weight because it was not born in ambition. It was authored in obedience. Long before you saw movement in the natural, the shift already happened in the spiritual. What you are witnessing now is not creation, but revelation. Heaven finalized the decision before you ever received the notice. This is why things feel different, even though not everything has changed yet. Your spirit knows before your environment does. Divine funding is not simply money appearing. It is authority being released. It is heaven backing an assignment with resources so the mission can no longer be delayed. This is not about luxury. It is about alignment. God does not fund chaos, ego, or impatience. God funds precision. And this moment is precise. The reason this transfer will shock your family is because they remember the version of you that struggled, waited, hoped, and endured without proof. They remember the process, but they did not see the preparation. They saw the delay, but not the divine escrow. They saw the silence, but not the strategy. And now, what was hidden is about to become visible. This is not sudden success. It is revealed faithfulness. This announcement is not to hype you, but to position you. You are standing at the threshold where belief becomes embodiment, where words turn into manifestation. This is why participation matters. When you comment 777, when you like, when you subscribe, when you stay until the end, you are not performing a ritual. You are declaring agreement. You are saying, I recognize what heaven has already approved. This is a sacred alignment moment. You were drawn here because your spirit already knows something irreversible has begun. The transfer is real. The funding is approved. And what is about to unfold will speak louder than anything you could ever explain. Here is the revelation that reframes your entire past. You were never broke. You were delayed. Not delayed because of failure, but delayed because of divine timing. Heaven was never punishing you. It was protecting you. What was meant for you was placed in spiritual escrow, held back not out of denial, but out of wisdom. If it had arrived earlier, it would have only relieved pressure. Arriving now, it creates elevation. God waited until the blessing could do more than help you survive. He waited until it could change your identity and reposition your lineage. This is why your family will be shocked. They have no framework for this level of transformation because it has never existed in your bloodline before. They watched you endure seasons where nothing made sense. Seasons where your effort outweighed your results. Seasons where you stayed faithful with no feedback. What they did not see is that delay was shaping you. It was strengthening your discernment, maturing your stewardship, and building your spiritual capacity. God was not asking if you could receive. He was asking if you could carry. And now the answer is yes. The transfer has already been approved. The decision is complete. The authorization has been signed in the unseen. What you are feeling now, the inner stirring, the calm expectancy, the sudden clarity, is confirmation that the verdict has already been rendered in your favor. This is why you are no longer desperate. This is why fear is losing its grip. This is why you feel detached from old worries. You crossed the line spiritually before you ever crossed it financially. And now, the manifestation must follow. Your family will be shocked, not because you changed overnight, but because the result will appear sudden to those who did not witness the process. This is the kind of shift that causes generational pause, the kind that makes people whisper, "There's no way they did this on their own." And they're right. You didn't. God did. This is not just money, not just a check, a deposit, or an increase. This is a heaven-backed transaction, and that distinction changes everything. What is being released into your hands carries spiritual authority. It is a supernatural reversal that reaches back through generations and dismantles patterns that were never meant to continue through you. Poverty was not your inheritance, it was an interruption. Lack was not your destiny, it was a detour. And now heaven is correcting the record. God's fingerprints are on every detail of this transfer: the timing, the channel, the scale, and the impact. This is why there will be no clean explanation, no resume that justifies it, no connection that can take credit, no formula that can be repeated. That is intentional. When God funds something, He removes human leverage so no one can boast. This provision does not come with anxiety attached. It does not bring fear of loss or pressure to perform. It carries peace. It carries authority. It carries expansion. This transaction is not just giving you access, it is changing your relationship with money itself. Where your family learned to fear it, you will steward it. Where they learned to survive, you will build. Where they learned limitation, you will operate in overflow. This is not indulgence, it is correction. A divine audit that says, what was missing stops with you. Once heaven signs a transaction, nothing on earth can reverse it. Systems may not understand it, but they will comply with it. Resistance cannot cancel it. Delay cannot stop it. This is not financial luck. It is spiritual alignment manifesting materially. And once it begins, it does not retreat. Every prayer you whispered in private was counted. Every tear you wiped away when no one was watching was recorded. Every seed you sowed when your hands were empty carried weight in the unseen. This moment is not charity, it is justice, divine payback for obedience that never needed applause. You showed up when no one acknowledged you. You stayed faithful when quitting would have been easier. You kept your integrity when compromise could have paid faster. You obeyed when the outcome was unclear, and now the reward can no longer remain hidden. Heaven is speaking loudly, publicly, and unapologetically on your behalf, not to embarrass others, but to honor your endurance. This is the season where private faith produces public fruit, where silent obedience becomes visible overflow. You are not being rewarded for perfection. You are being rewarded for persistence, for consistency, for staying aligned when it hurt, for trusting when nothing changed. The silence was never rejection. It was incubation. And now, the incubation period is complete. The fruit must be seen. This is why the blessing cannot stay quiet. This is why the increase will be noticeable. This is why the evidence will be undeniable. Heaven does not whisper when it vindicates. When God decides to respond, the response is unmistakable. This transfer must be seen, not for vanity, but for validation. Heaven is not elevating you to impress people. It is positioning you to establish truth. There are seasons where God hides you for protection, and then there are seasons where He reveals you for confirmation. This is that season. The public nature of this transfer is intentional because visibility silences arguments that words never could. There are people who questioned your faith, doubted your discipline, and dismissed your patience. They need evidence, not explanations. When God validates someone publicly, it is not to inflate ego, but to authenticate alignment. Your life is becoming a living testimony that obedience works even when it looks foolish. This is not about showing off. It is about shutting down disbelief and awakening faith in those who were waiting to see if trusting God actually produces results. This public shift is also a signal to other believers who have been watching you quietly. Your breakthrough becomes permission for theirs. Heaven understands the power of evidence. That is why the transfer must be visible. It draws a clear line between opinion and proof, between speculation and manifestation. The spotlight is not for self-promotion. It is for divine confirmation. When heaven funds something, earthly systems lose authority over the outcome. Man's approval is no longer required. Debt loses its power to delay you. Denials lose their finality. What once took months now takes moments. Doors open without you knocking. Conversations shift without you forcing them. Decisions reverse without explanation. This is what happens when divine funding overrides natural limitation. You are no longer negotiating with systems. You are being escorted through them. Banks begin to reconsider. Gatekeepers become helpers. Opportunities appear from directions you never targeted. This is not manipulation. It is alignment. Grace becomes your greatest investor. Favor becomes your access code. Where logic once blocked you, now it bows. Where policy once restricted you, now it bends. Divine funding does not ignore earthly systems, it supersedes them. And once heaven takes jurisdiction, resistance becomes irrelevant. This transfer is not just meeting a need, it is moving you. God is repositioning you through provision, because placement matters as much as supply. Money in the wrong position creates problems. Money in the right position creates legacy. This shift is changing what your family name represents. It is redefining how your story is told. You are no longer the one trying to catch up. You are becoming the reference point, the one others look to for stability, direction, and support. This is why the increase feels weighty. It carries responsibility, not just relief. You are being positioned as the financial hinge of your bloodline, the one through whom cycles change direction. This is not about having more. It is about being placed correctly. God is not just giving you resources. He is assigning you influence. You did not stumble into this season. You were prepared for it. You endured lack without losing gratitude. You faced rejection without becoming bitter. You walked through silence without abandoning faith. There were moments you felt isolated, overlooked, and misunderstood, yet you stayed aligned. You sowed when no one saw. You praised when nothing changed. You obeyed when the reward was invisible. That is what qualified you. Not talent, not speed, not perfection. Faithfulness through obscurity, consistency under pressure. Integrity when compromise would have been easier. These tests were not meant to break you. They were meant to build your capacity. And now, that capacity is being filled. The weight you once carried in faith is now being matched with provision. This wealth is not arriving to inflate your lifestyle. It is arriving to activate your assignment. You are not just a receiver, you are a distributor. What flows into your hands is meant to flow through them. You are being positioned to fund dreams, open doors, and remove barriers for others. This is kingdom wealth, quiet in ego, loud in impact. It does not announce itself with noise, but with change. People will not just see what you have, they will feel what you do with it. This is why your heart had to be prepared before your hands were filled. God trusts you with resources because He knows you will use them with intention. You are becoming a conduit, not a container. There will come a point where explanations stop being necessary. You will no longer beg. You will authorize. You will no longer wait. You will direct. This shift in posture is part of the transfer itself. Your confidence will not come from numbers, but from knowing the source. When people ask how it happened, the answer will be simple and sufficient. God funded it. This is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Your account change is not random. It is a signal, a sign that alignment has produced release. What heaven funds cannot be reversed, revoked, or reclaimed. Once God signs off, the transaction stands. And that is all the explanation you will ever need. You were chosen to do what your ancestors could not finish, not because they failed, but because the time was not yet ripe. You are the interruption in the pattern, the one placed in the lineage to redirect the flow of history. This transfer is not just blessing you, it is activating your bloodline. Generations before you worked, prayed, endured, and hoped without ever touching the fullness of what was promised. Their ceilings were not moral, they were structural. And now, those structures are being dismantled through you. This is why the weight feels heavier than personal success. You are carrying more than your own future. You are carrying correction for the past and access for the future. What once skipped your family line is now landing squarely on you. This is not favoritism, it is fulfillment. Heaven chose you as the point of intervention, the one through whom financial history would be rewritten. From this moment forward, your family story will be told in two parts, before you and after you. The transfer is not just provision, it is proclamation, a declaration that struggle no longer has the final word over your lineage. You are no longer just the dreamer in the family. You are the executor, no longer the one with ideas, but the one with authority. This season marks a shift in identity. You are becoming an investor, a builder, and a source of overflow. This wealth is not random success, it is confirmation of calling. God does not release resources without assignment attached. What is being placed in your hands is directly connected to what has been placed in your spirit. Your journey, every delay, every detour, every disappointment, has been shaping you for this precise moment. You are stepping into a role that requires clarity, courage, and stewardship. Others may still see you through the lens of who you were, but heaven sees you as who you are becoming. This is why your posture is changing. Your tolerance for small vision is gone. Your appetite for purpose has increased. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are being entrusted with more because you are ready to move differently. The transformation that follows this transfer will confuse many, and that confusion is intentional. There will be no single person, plan, or platform that can take credit for what is unfolding. The glow-up is not cosmetic, it is a glory release. From silence to significance, from obscurity to impact, your fruit will speak louder than any defense you could offer. People will try to trace the source, but every trail will lead back to the same conclusion. This was God. And that is exactly how it was designed. When heaven funds a move, it removes human fingerprints, so divine authorship is unmistakable. You will not need to argue your legitimacy. The evidence will argue for you. This is why humility will protect you and consistency will sustain you. Your life is becoming the message, and the message is clear. God still funds what He favors. This shift is not flashy, it is foundational. It is not about a moment of relief, but a structure of stability. What God is establishing through you is territorial. It affects systems, environments, and future generations. This is not a season you pass through. It is a position you occupy. The wealth coming into your life is meant to secure land, legacy, and long-term impact. Temporary blessings excite, but territorial shifts endure. You are being anchored in a new reality where provision is consistent and influence is sustainable. This is not about personal comfort, it is about generational building. What you establish now will outlive you. And that is why heaven took its time. As this shift becomes visible, expect resistance, not from strangers, but from familiarity. People from your past may reappear, suddenly interested, suddenly supportive, suddenly aligned. Not all of them belong in this future. Some are drawn by access, not assignment. Others are uncomfortable because your elevation confronts their limitations. Do not misinterpret backlash as a sign you missed God. It is often confirmation that you obeyed Him. You will be tempted to shrink, to explain yourself, to make others comfortable with your growth. Resist that urge. Comfort zones are where calling goes to die. You are not elevated to blend in. You are elevated to lead. Stay in alignment, even when it costs you approval. Boldness will protect your assignment. Clarity will guard your peace. You are not here to be liked. You are here to establish something that lasts. With divine provision comes divine responsibility. You are no longer just believing for miracles, you are managing them. You are becoming the spiritual accountant of your bloodline, the one trusted to steward increase with wisdom and foresight. This wealth is not idle, it is active. It is meant to build homes, restore stability, fund vision, and birth movements. You are being trained to think generationally, not impulsively. Strategy now matters as much as faith. Heaven has placed resources in your hands because it trusts your discernment. You are not guessing, you are guided. This is the season where obedience turns into architecture and faith turns into systems. You are not just funded, you are authorized. God is using your life to split your family's story in two, before you and after you. This is not symbolic, it is structural. What once defined your lineage will no longer apply. Struggle is no longer the default setting. Lack is no longer the expectation. You are standing at a supernatural climax, a holy eruption where years of preparation collide with divine release. This transfer announces to the seen and unseen realms that a new era has begun. Your obedience has consequences far beyond your own life. Descendants you will never meet will benefit from decisions you are making now. This is legacy in motion. Heaven is proclaiming through you, the cycle ends here. Do not mistake this transfer as the destination. It is the initiation. A new chapter has been unlocked, and you are walking into it with heaven backing your every move. You no longer explain, you execute. You no longer hesitate, you move with authority. What comes next will build on what is being released now. Momentum will follow obedience. Increase will follow stewardship. Expansion will follow courage. This is kingdom wealth, governed by purpose, sustained by alignment, and protected by divine favor. What you are stepping into will continue to unfold layer by layer. This is not the peak. This is the foundation.